My name is Kendall Drake, and I'm 34 years old. I have worked hard all my life to achieve what I am proud of now. A magnificent beach house, a successful real estate insurance business, and several houses that I have successfully resold. It would seem that I have everything, but the real treasure for me has always been my fiancée Talia. She's 29, and I was sure that our marriage would be the epitome of perfect love. But one evening changed everything. I returned home earlier that day after basketball practice. My friends decided to wrap up earlier than usual, and I thought it would be nice to spend the evening with Talia. I parked the car in the driveway of our house and went inside. The house seemed empty and quiet, except for the muffled laughter and conversations coming from the living room. I stopped for a moment, listening. It was the voice of Talia and her friend Lindsay. They seemed to be chatting merrily, and I didn't want to interrupt them. I took a step towards the living room, but suddenly I heard words that made me freeze in place. "You know, Lindsay, I'm just tired of all these Ashol guys." Talia's voice was full of disappointment. "All these relationships that I've had, it's a solid swing. And Kendall, he's stable, he's reliable. I know he will never let me down." "But you love him, don't you?" Lindsay asked with a note of doubt in her voice. "Love?" Talia chuckled. "After everything I've been through, I needed something more reliable. Kendall is perfect in this regard. He has a great job, he takes care of me, we have a house. This is an ideal option for a quiet life." My heart seemed to stop. I felt the blood drain from my face. I stood in the shadow of the hallway, not believing my ears. These words, coming from the woman I loved with all my soul, seemed like a dagger plunging into my very heart. "But isn't it important that there be love?" Lindsay insisted. "Lindsay, love is an illusion," Talia continued. "I need something real, and Kendall is real. Yes, maybe I don't love him as much as I should, but he gives me confidence in the future. And after all these terrible relationships, I deserve stability." I felt a wave of anger and pain rising in my chest. I couldn't listen anymore. Turning quickly and quietly, I headed for the exit. The air outside seemed cold and harsh to me, as did the realization that my fiancée had never really loved me. I got into the car, trying to collect my thoughts. What to do? What should I do with this information? Thoughts and emotions were spinning chaotically in my head. I replayed what I had heard over and over in my head, each time feeling deeper pain and disappointment. The next day, I tried to behave as usual, but thoughts of that conversation would not leave me. Talia noticed that I was out of my mind, but she didn't ask any questions. Maybe she didn't even know that I had found out something. After a few days, gathering all my willpower, I decided it was time to talk to Talia. I couldn't carry this pain inside me anymore. In the evening, I invited her for a walk on the beach, hoping that the fresh air and tranquility would help me express my feelings. We were walking along the shore when I stopped and looked into her eyes. "Talia, we need to talk," I began, feeling a lump rise in my throat. She stopped and looked at me intently, as if sensing that the conversation would be difficult. "About what, Kendall? You look like something's happened." Took a deep breath and started. "I came home early a few days ago, and I heard you talking to Lindsay. I heard you say you were content with me. That stability is more important to you than love." Her face paled and her eyes widened in shock. She opened her mouth, trying to say something, but couldn't find the words. "You really think so?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Talia turned away, not daring to look me in the eye. "Kendall, me? I didn't want you to find out that way. But is it true? Do you really see me as just a means to achieve stability?" She nodded slowly. "In the beginning, yes. I was looking for stability, but then what?" I interrupted sharply. "Did you fall in love with me? Or did she continue to see in me only a convenient option for life? She was silent, and then she whispered softly, "I love you, Kendall." But not immediately. In the beginning, I was really only looking for stability. These words only increased my pain. I turned and walked away, feeling tears coming to my eyes. The next morning, the quiet morning light flooded our living room. I was sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee, trying to make sense of the events of the last few days. Talia was still asleep, her regular breathing coming from the bedroom. My gaze skimmed over the photos decorating the walls. Our trips together, holidays, moments of happiness that now seemed like empty illusions. Everything we had built together seemed false now. I remembered how Talia proudly told her friends about our house. She liked to say that she helped with the decor, that she had a great job, and that she now works in real estate. But the truth was that her financial independence was just a myth. I remembered all those times when she asked me to pay for her credit cards or buy her something expensive that she thought she needed. "Kendall, do you mind if I take a new bag?" she asked one day, a voice full of hope. "Another one? You just bought a new one," I replied, trying not to show annoyance. "But it's a collector's item. I like her so much. Besides, I'm going to sell my first house soon, and then I'll be able to pay for all my purchases myself." Her voice was filled with confidence, but I knew it was just words. In reality, Talia hasn't sold anything for months. Her career in real estate started too slowly, and I became increasingly aware that her financial dependence on me was becoming more pronounced. It was unpleasant to realize, but I kept turning a blind eye to it, hoping that everything would change. One evening, when Talia was at a meeting with her friends, I decided to check her phone. I knew it was wrong, but after what I heard, I had no other choice. Taking her phone, I quickly typed in the password and started reading her messages. "You have no idea how difficult this is," she wrote to a friend. "Kendall is a good person, but I can't constantly feel dependent on him. I want to be independent, but every time I look at my accounts, I get scared. Maybe you should find a job that brings a stable income." The friend replied, "I've tried, but it's not working. I like the freedom that working in real estate gives me, but so far it does not bring income. And Kendall, he always supports me, and I don't want to disappoint him." I felt anger and pain overwhelm me. I was not only a convenient option for her, but also a source of financial support. She used me to ensure a comfortable life for herself, while I believed in her sincere love. When Talia returned home, I tried to behave as usual. She came into the living room smiling and sat down next to me. "How was your evening?" I asked, trying to hide my true emotions. "Great," she replied, unaware that I knew her secrets. "We had a good time, we laughed a lot." "I'm glad to hear that," I said, feeling the tension building inside me. "Talia, we need to talk." She looked at me in surprise. Her smile disappeared. "About what?" "About us. About our relationship and your dependence on me." Talia clearly hadn't expected such a conversation. She froze, then her face changed. There was concern. "What are you talking about, Kendall? I thought we were fine." "I thought so too," I replied, feeling the tension build up. "But after what I heard and read in your messages, I had doubts." "Have you read my messages?" Her voice was full of discontent and shock. "This is a violation of my privacy." "Perhaps," I agreed, but I had no other choice. I had to find out the truth. "Do you really depend on me financially and don't see anything more in me than a way to ensure a comfortable life for yourself?" Talia lowered her head, avoiding my gaze. "That's not true, Kendall. I love you. It's just that sometimes it's hard for me to cope with thoughts about the future and my independence." "But you didn't tell me about it," I said, feeling my anger grow. "You discussed it with your friends, but not with me. Why?" She was silent, her eyes filled with tears. I realized that I can't continue this conversation right now. I got up and went to the door. We need time to figure this out, I said, turning around. I'm going outside to cool off and think. I went out on the terrace and took a deep breath of the fresh sea air. A whirlwind of thoughts was spinning in my head. How could I not have noticed this before? I trusted Talia. I believed in her sincerity, and she was just using me. But what to do next? How to find a way out of this situation? I stood on the terrace, looking at the waves crashing on the shore, and tried to find answers to my questions. Emotions were raging inside me, and I knew that there was a long and difficult way to understand and accept this new reality. With that thought in mind, I returned to the house. Talia was sitting on the couch, hugging her knees, her face wet with tears. I realized that this conversation is just the beginning of a long and difficult path to the truth, and new challenges lie ahead. I wandered along the beach for a long time, trying to cope with the storm of emotions. The sound of the waves and the cool breeze calmed me down a little, but thoughts about Talia and our conversation did not leave my head. I knew I had to go back and finish the conversation I had started. We couldn't go on living pretending that nothing had happened. When I got home, Talia was still sitting on the couch, her face pale and haggard. She looked up at me, full of pain and fear. I sat down opposite her, feeling like I was breathing heavily in this tense atmosphere. We need to talk about this, Talia. I began, trying to keep my voice calm. I want to understand what's really going on. She nervously straightened her hair and sighed. Kendall, I know I've hurt you, but you have to understand that my words don't mean that I don't love you. You say you love me, but your actions and words tell a different story, I replied, trying to contain my anger. You see in me only stability and financial support. This is not love, Talia. She clenched her hands into fists, trying to find the words. I'm just scared, Kendall. I was always afraid that I would be alone, that I couldn't handle it on my own. But why didn't you tell me about it? Why did you hide your real feelings? I was afraid you'd leave. Her voice trembled. I thought if I told the truth, you wouldn't want to be with me anymore. Talia, I said softly, relationships are built on trust. If we don't have trust, we don't have anything. She paused, her eyes glistening with tears. I realized that this conversation would not bring us relief, but we had to get through it. How long have you been feeling like this? I asked, trying not to get angry. At first, she admitted. When we first started dating, I was looking for stability. But then everything changed. I love you, Kendall. For real. But then why do you keep discussing me with your friends as if I'm just a means to achieve your goals? She turned away, unable to meet my gaze. It's my mistake, she said softly. I was trying to find support, advice. But that doesn't justify my actions. No, it doesn't. I agreed. And now we need to decide what to do next. Thalia looked up at me, full of hope and despair. Kendall, I want to fix this. I don't want to lose you. But can we do it? I asked, feeling a storm of emotions raging inside me. Will we be able to restore trust? The next few days were agonizing. We continued to live under the same roof, but our communication became strained and cold. Every time I looked at Talia, I saw not only the woman I loved, but also the person who betrayed my trust. One evening, as we were sitting in the living room, I decided it was time for a serious conversation. Talia, we need to make a decision. We can't go on living the way we are now. She nodded, her face tense. I understand. What do you suggest? We need time and space to figure out what we want and whether we can continue together. I think you need to temporarily move in with a friend or relatives. Thalia paled, but nodded. Her voice was barely audible. I understand. The next day, Talia started packing her things. It was painful to see her putting her things in suitcases, but I knew it was necessary. We both needed space to think about our relationship and figure out if we had a future. "Kendall," she said, pausing in the bedroom doorway, "I really want to fix this. I love you." "I want it too, Talia," I replied, feeling a pang pierce my heart. "But we need time. For both of us." When Talia left, I felt mixed emotions, relief and pain. The relief that we were finally starting to sort out our feelings, and the pain of being separated from the woman I still loved. These days were the beginning of a new path for both of us. I began to rethink my priorities and goals in life. I needed to figure out what I wanted from our relationship and whether I was ready to give Talia a second chance. Talia, in turn, also rethought her actions and behavior. She understood that her actions had caused me a deep wound, and now she was striving to correct her mistakes. It's been a few weeks since Talia left. The house seemed empty and lifeless. I tried to keep busy with my work and hobbies, but thoughts of her would not leave me. Evenings became especially difficult when I sat on the sofa with a book or turned on the TV, and the silence seemed deafening. One evening, I decided to call my friend Max. He has always been a support for me in difficult times. We met at a local cafe, and I told him about my experiences. "Kendall, you did the right thing," Max said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "You both needed time and space. But now it's important to decide what you want next." "I do not know, Max," I replied, looking at the coffee mug. "I think I still love her, but I'm not sure if I can forgive her." Max sighed and leaned back in his chair. "This is a difficult question. It will take time to sort out your feelings. But you have to think about yourself, about what will make you happy." A few days later, Talia called me. Her voice was low and uncertain. "Kendall, can we meet? I'd like to talk." I felt my heart quicken its rhythm. This conversation was inevitable, and I knew it would be key to our future. "Yes, of course. Let's meet at our favorite cafe by the beach." When I arrived, Talia was already waiting. She was sitting at a table by the window, her eyes full of anxiety. I sat down across from him, feeling the tension between us grow. "Thanks for coming," she began, nervously straightening her hair. "I've been thinking a lot during this time, and I realized that I had made a lot of mistakes." "Talia, I've been thinking a lot too," I said, trying to speak calmly. I realized that we both needed this time to sort out our feelings. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "Kendall, I want you to know that I really love you, but I understand that I hurt you, and I'm ready to do anything to regain your trust." We talked for a long time, trying to figure out what to do next. Talia suggested starting small, spending more time together, but at the same time keeping a distance so that each of us could make sense of our feelings. "I want to prove to you that I've changed," she said. "I am ready to find a job that will give me a stable income so that I no longer depend on you." "This will be the right move, Talia," I replied, feeling hope grow inside me. "But we need to be honest with each other. If something bothers us, we should talk about it right away." She nodded in agreement. "I promise, Kendall. I don't want to lose you. You're important to me." In the following weeks, we started working on our relationship. We met several times a week, spent time together, but also paid attention to our own affairs. Talia got a job at a small company that sells and rents real estate, and I saw how it raised her self-esteem. "I like working here," she said one evening as we walked along the beach. "I feel like I'm doing something meaningful." "I'm happy for you, Talia," I replied, looking at her smiling face. "You're really good." Gradually, I began to feel that our trust was being restored. We talked more, shared our thoughts and feelings. It was a difficult journey, but I saw that we were both trying for the sake of our common future. One evening, as we were sitting by the fireplace enjoying the cozy atmosphere, Talia suddenly turned to me. Kendall, I have an idea. How would you like to start a new project together? I was surprised, but I was interested. What kind of project? I want us to take care of the new house together. You know, I've always loved design and decor. We could buy a house that needs renovation and turn it into something beautiful together. I thought about it. This idea seemed interesting and even symbolic. A new home could be the beginning of a new stage in our relationship. That sounds great, Talia. Let's try. We started looking for a house that needed renovation. This process was fascinating and unifying. We went for inspections together, discussed plans, and dreamed about how we would equip it. One day, when we were standing in front of the old house by the lake, Talia took my hand. Kendall, I know we've been through a lot of hardships, but I believe that together we can overcome everything. I looked into her eyes and felt confidence growing inside me. I believe it too, Talia. We have started a new path, and I am ready to walk along it with you. We bought a house and started to renovate it. This project has become for us not only an opportunity to create something new, but also a symbol of our efforts to restore trust and love. We worked together, laughed and supported each other, and every day I felt our relationship getting stronger. The new house was the beginning of a new stage in our lives. We knew there was still a lot of work ahead, but now we were ready for it. Our relationship became more mature and sincere, and we were full of hope for the future. This chapter of our life was full of trials and overcoming, but it also gave us the opportunity to start over from scratch. We were building our future together, and I knew that, despite all the difficulties, we would cope. So we have come to the end of this story. Please write your opinion in the comments. We will be interested to know it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss new, even more exciting stories. We wish you good luck.